This afternoon I'm going to give you a talk really in two parts. The first part is really a story a bit of entrepreneurship, and the second part is a wonderful passage of fantasy about my imagination. I show this slide because it shows my widened family. We start with my grandfather, Mossy, and my grandmother, Tootsie, on the left-hand side, and my darling grandchildren on the right, and takes us through the family. And why I do that is because I think it's important about entrepreneurship. It gives you a point of control, and I think it's also important that you actually have an understanding that you are giving yourself a framework, a corporation if you like, into which all of the family members can sit. Now, you start with the simple notion of buying and selling. And if you understand the city at all, the city functions on the simple notion of buying and selling. Here am I on the Portobello Road in 1974, a bit unbelievable, certainly a lot younger than I am today, buying and selling white shoes that I'd managed to buy from an army surplus, and they were beautiful buckskin shoes used by the Navy. It was a very hot summer. We were in Portobello Road, and I engaged every Saturday for as long as these shoes lasted with the public, and I was able to kind of understand this notion of demand. It wasn't just the notion of salesmanship, it was the notion of demand, whether people wanted these shoes and whether they'd be prepared to pay for them. I'm always appalled when I hear the statistics that emerge from our professional body about the median income for an architect after they've been through after they're newly qualified. And I'm appalled to find with the investment that they make that median income is only about £24,000 a year. And it seems to me that we sit inside the profession of architecture with the wrong attitude to our own monetary value of the services we bring. And I think this starts, everybody can talk about different ways you can get value added, but I think it has to start with the notion that our fees should be about the value that we're creating for our clients. And in that process, and that's one of the reasons why I became a developer, I wanted to demonstrate that the real value that I make, and actually then as a project maker, then actually as a manufacturer, I'm making my profit from the construction of those buildings. Now, quite often when they talk about family firms, they talk about a typical founder. Well, in my case, this is now going back to the architectural practice that I helped found with my partners at CZWG. And we are, I think, at the moment celebrating our 40th year in business, although I haven't been a partner there for 30 odd years. Here am I, not quite as young as the other one, but in a way wearing the clothes of that first professional, wide-eyed, waiting for the opportunity to arrive. Now, here we're moving on to another project that we did recently, which is a project really of the notion of impermanence as well as permanence. The notion that actually, as bits of the city, what we can do is we're trying to find how they might be occupied. So for me, in the process of becoming a developer, I have to be very decisive in how I make the city. I have to come up with final decisions. I'm being asked, in a way, somebody asked me the other day, what did I do? And I said, simply, all I do is I make decisions every day of my life, every hour. Everybody comes to me and says, what are we going to do now? And in that process of being decisive, you need to know that you're right. And the only way you can know you're right is you have the idea and the concept of what it is that you're making, and that in itself is right. And so I say, before I start, I've got to know my onions. And in my case, and I think all of us who've gone from an architectural background into development, knowing your onions means understanding what the cost of a project might be, how you undertake a development appraisal, what the risks are, how you evaluate those risks, how can you talk to investors, how can you raise the funds, how can you find the site, How can you build what you know you want to build? How do you know that what you're building or you're giving your brief to your architects is in fact what the market wants? How do you deal with market demand? How do you deal with those risks? And all of that is actually really having the experience, having your 10,000 hours of experience to know. You must have, for me, in terms of the way I make a city, is I need to have an idea. I need to have an idea about something, about that gap site. And in fact, I've recently published a book, and the book is called Shouldn't We All Be Developers? And it says that we need more homes, that's a fact. We need volume, light and character. We need liberated rules. We need imagination to unlock the forgotten small plots. This is the book that the volume house builders didn't want you to read. But it is a primer where I've actually tried to bring together all of the elements that make up development. And in this next slide, I worked in collaboration with an artist called Peter Wiley, and this is an exhibition and the interpretation really of an addition to the city. The notion that actually where we have our wider complement, or the numbers of people that are actually going to be living in our urban environments, as we know from the statistics, the UN statistics, that as the global population increases, and more so as the urban population goes from 3.5 billion to 5.5 billion, we know that we need to find in our urban environments places for people to live, affordable homes for them to occupy. One of the ways I believe it's possible to do that is to treat the city as a place of addition, and that's why I come up with an idea like this. What's important to you in terms of developer? A developer is a developer, or a development, or an entrepreneur is about a project, and a project is about the idea of being able to deal with a whole correct collection of people. And when I say to you, the notion of do you like clients is actually how happy are you talking to them, being with them, engaging with them. I have the same issue for myself, because every project I have to do, I have to find people that I'm going to persuade to invest or fund. And so the notion of entrepreneur is the notion that actually we're kind of engaging in something which is stronger than the sum of the parts, something which actually assembles everybody together. And we have to kind of remember what it is that we offer. We have to put out on our goods, in my case, my projects, I have to put those as something which I really believe in and which I really feel are intriguing and enchanting. And there's nothing wrong with actually saying that you enjoy, if you enjoy being in the park, if you enjoy playing a game of tennis, whatever it is, don't try and consider that as a separate part of your life. When you're a creative and when you're an entrepreneur, every part of your life. You can be sitting on this park bench, enjoying the moment of sunshine and having the best idea you've ever had. You then go on earning out of that idea for many years to come. You're trying to develop parts of your brain which are like the muscles, which actually, almost like an athlete, those muscles open up to allow you to consider and have ideas that are the best you're ever going to have. And then equally in the same way as what you know, it's very important to know what you dislike, because once again, there's no point in persuading yourself to like something you dislike. If you don't like to dress in bow ties, don't wear bow ties. If you don't like a particular vegetable or a style or an architecture, don't try and do it. And finally, then, I think it's very important in all of this that you actually find what fits. One of the advantages of being an ancient old chap like myself is that even though you saw me in this set of slides in an earlier time, I was much more confused then. Now I haven't got time to be confused. I've got settled. I've decided I'm not going to be a pop star. I'm not going to be a footballer. I'm just going into my old age, enjoying making bits of the city time and time again. Thank you.